Hey everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. For this video I've got another book review for you, and this is the book called Basic Principles in Pianoforte Playing by Josef Lhevinne. In this review I will be sharing some of my personal favorite tips that have helped me a lot and just break down the book slightly for all those who might be interested in reading this one. This book was originally published in 1924. The new edition, which is the one currently in print by Dover, is the one which has a new foreword by Josef Lhevinne's wife, Rosanna Lhevinne. Josef and Rosanna Lhevinne both taught at Juilliard, which is one of the most prestigious music conservatoires in the world. And they were probably some of the most sought after teachers in the world of piano playing. Let's get into the book review. Two things that struck me first and which I liked quite a lot about this book is that the size of this book is not very intimidating. It's a very thin book, just about 50 pages. Even though it's very short and small, it does not mean that it does not have anything of value. There is so much content in this that is so incredibly useful for pianists. The language that Lhevinne uses in this book is also not very dense. It is easily accessible and it's a very approachable and readable book for pianists aged even 10, 12 who would not have a lot of difficulty going through the whole book or understanding what Lhevinne is trying to say. The first thing that immediately struck out to me, which I really liked about this book, is that it begins with a chapter where Lhevinne discusses the modern piano. He has addressed the limitations of the modern piano and how different it is to the pianofortes or to the harpsichords. He discusses the endless possibilities of this instrument and how far it's come from when the first piano was invented by Bartolomeo Cristofori. Another reason why I personally found this book to be a brilliant one and which I associated and related a lot with it is because my own teaching style is quite similar to the way Lhevinne has structured the chapters. That's not to say that I'm anything like Josef Lhevinne or I'm not that great a teacher. I would love to be, but it is good to know that my own teaching style emulates or is similar to a great teacher like Josef Lhevinne. So getting back to the way Lhevinne has structured this book, and one of the first musical concepts that he discusses is rhythm. In all of my teaching, even before students start to read music or they start to play properly or they start practicing scales or arpeggios or anything of that sort, I first try and teach students how to count. Maintaining a steady rhythm is extremely crucial in having a flow to the music, in having a continuity, and so that you can effectively communicate the music that you're trying to play with the listeners. Lhevinne dedicates a huge amount of time to even discussing rests right in the beginning. As music students, as music learners, we're all too bogged down by trying to produce sounds. A lot of the act of piano playing is producing sound. So when I play the notes, that produces sound, so we're all constantly thinking about that. But having discussed rest in the beginning is an extremely important point because music grows out of rests or silences and it eventually stops, and when it stops, what we're left with is a silence at the end. Even during the piece, rests are equally as important as the notes that we play. I really like this idea and approach of discussing rests and silences right from the beginning. Now, usually at this point in a lot of books about pianoforte playing, there's a lot of talk about what good technique on the piano is, what bad technique is, but that's not the case for Lhevinne. What he discusses right from the beginning is good tone production, producing a good sound. So Lhevinne's not focused on technique or on the mechanical aspects of piano playing at all until much later in the book. Right in the beginning, he's only discussing good tone production, and for that he does address some of the basic things about posture in piano playing, so that when your hands are there, you shouldn't ideally have very curved fingers, but your hands should be slightly flatter on the piano. And this is the joint that should be working when you're playing the keys and not this. This is a much longer muscle and it's a lot more exhausting playing like this compared to this, where a shorter muscle is at work. And small little things like this which are very often missed out in the early piano lessons. Having gone through rests, rhythm and good tone production, Lhevinne then moves on to the different aspects of piano playing, like accuracy, like technique, like memorization, like how to practice. So I will not go into detail about all of those things or all of those aspects, but I will focus on one more thing which I think is often neglected or missed out in piano lessons, which is the movement and the action of the wrist. The wrist plays a huge role in piano playing. Right from the early piano lessons, teachers and students are focusing on how their fingers work. I need to play this note, I need to get from this note to that note, whether it's thumb under. But when we're doing, say, for instance, in the C major scale, if we're doing the thumb under, how does our wrist move? That is very often not discussed. When we're learning chords, when we're learning staccato octaves, staccato passages, the wrist plays a very crucial role. One of the examples I can think of is when playing chords. After having played the chord or after having played the note, there is nothing we pianists can do. That is unfortunately one of the limitations of this instrument. And after having played that note, if we're kind of sinking into the note and leaving this wrist relaxed, that takes away a lot of the strain from our fingers, a lot of the strain from our hands, and it just creates a much more musical and a resonant sound. This is one of the examples that I think even Lhevinne discusses in the book. The fact that Lhevinne has discussed the movement of wrists and the role that our wrists play in piano playing was extremely insightful to me, because this is one of the things even I did not discuss a lot as a teacher when I was teaching students. Now this will definitely be a part of my teaching when I'm training young students in their early years. They do need to pay attention to how their wrists move. Only after having discussed things like tone production, producing a good sound, discussing rhythm, delicacy, and what cantabile playing is, only after having discussed all of those things does Lhevinne move on to discussing technique, accuracy, and some dangers in piano playing. Keeping in the theme of this channel where I'm discussing practicing techniques and trying to help pianists practice better, I don't think it would be fair to have this kind of a book review without one point on practicing. Lhevinne says, and I'm paraphrasing here, 4 hours is a good measure of practice. Over and under practice is not a good idea, and there is no shortcut to this. Just one thing we must be careful of when we're practicing is that there must be variety when we practice. We cannot be practicing the same thing in the same manner over and over again to try and improve our practice. Say we are practicing a passage which has a lot of quick scale work and a lot of finger work. We must do it in rhythms, we must stop at different points, we must block it, we must analyze it and study it, see where those little cadences are in that phrase, what the phrasing is like, and we must practice in a variety of different ways when we are practicing. It's not fruitful to practice the same thing in the same way over and over and over again. The last advice I have to share from this book is that Lhevinne advises that we must avoid distractions when we're practicing. He suggests that we should plan and structure our practice sessions beforehand, before we even start practicing. And on that note, check out this other video where I have created a tool that tries and addresses this point of avoiding distractions and trying to plan a practice session. I have tried and simplified this whole idea into a very small card. This, in my experience and from some of the feedback I've gotten, it really helps avoiding distractions and helping plan the practice sessions a lot better. So I would highly urge you all to check out this video where I discuss this tool, and I am collecting orders for some free samples to be sent out. Unfortunately, this is only in the UK right now, but quickly head over to this video to know more about these practice cards and quickly place your sample order. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed this book review, and hopefully there are some of these tips that can help you in your music journey. I will see you again in another video about practicing. Bye bye.